Tiffany here, and today I want to talk to you about something that seems to be a hot topic around, I don't know, anybody who's reselling clothing or used items that maybe are like household goods or different things like that. I want to talk to you specifically today on how to identify vintage clothing pieces. Like, I feel like we can all learn something from somebody. You're never, okay, this is my disclaimer, okay, because there's a need for it. You're never going to know too much about reselling. You're never going to know too much about fashion. You're never going to know too much about hustling. You're never going to know too much about clothing. And you're going to never know too much about finding vintage and identifying it. It's like my life's work. I feel like I've been at it for a very, very long time. And because of the many years of me having a brick and mortar vintage store front, I've seen lots of tags. So my eye is pretty skilled at being able to see things that, are vintage. Now, another disclaimer is I get fooled too. I sometimes see new things and I will just jump into the rack and get so excited and think it's something that is vintage, and it's not. It's a modern repro piece that, may have that kind of vintage look, or maybe it is a little bit older, but it's not quite vintage. So, to be vintage, it's got to be at least 25 years old. The waiver wire could be 20, it could be 25. In my world, it's 25 years old. Things that are 20, I don't think that that's vintage. How could something that's 20 years old be considered vintage? That's my opinion. You don't have to like it, but that's what I've been, kind of modeling my business after since I started selling vintage clothes in 1999. I don't know. But, so to me, that means all those years, that's experience. That's my know-how, that's my knowledge, and that's why I'm going to teach you when you're out in the fields, out in the trenches, sourcing, digging, shopping, having the time of your life, trying to figure out what is it that I'm looking at. Okay, so let's get this party started by saying there's so much to learn. I don't even know where to begin. So I'm going to start with the obvious. The obvious is if you walk up to a rack that says vintage, you go to an estate sale that says everything is vintage. That tells you there that, hey, everything's probably vintage. That doesn't always happen every time you go shopping. So if it doesn't happen every time you go shopping, what are you going to do? You're going to solve the vintage mystery. The best way to solve it is to look at the item. Look at the tags. The tags will tell you this big, long love story of its history just by certain things about the tags. Number one is, how did they sew on the tag? That's where I'm going to start. This is one of the greatest ways for you to actually identify a piece of vintage. How did they sew on the tag? And where is that tag? Is it on the interior? Is it on the exterior? Is it in the back of the neck? Is it in the waistline? Is it in the hemline? Where is that tag? Okay, so you find the tag. Okay, you're starting to solve the mystery. And so now you look at the tag. My question to you is, how is that tag sewn down? Is it folded funny? Is it folded into like this little kind of like a triangle-y square? Are all four corners sewn down? Is only the top sewn down? Are only the sides sewn? Are these sides sewn? Okay, all of that stuff I just splashed onto you, that is part of the mystery. So in different eras, they had different styles. They had different styles of manufacturing. They had different styles of fashion. They had different styles of fabrics. So now we're getting a little bit deeper into the vintage mystery. And it seems like these are a lot of things to be asking yourself about one garment, but I feel like I want to talk to you today like you're a total newbie and this is one of your first experiences finding vintage clothes. Now, you may be a seasoned veteran. You might have been slinging vintage since, I don't know, a long time. You might be into wearing vintage. You might be into collecting vintage. You might be flipping vintage. We all have different paths, and these are just what I've used in my experiences to find it. So I get my hot little hands on that tag, and the tag's going to tell me almost everything I need to know to solve the vintage mystery about that garment. So hang on, I'm going to show you guys some actual examples to make you understand and start thinking about when you're actually out in the trenches, on the rack, swiping, looking, what is this? And you pull it out, you grab the garment, and you think, hey, this might be a vintage piece. Let's start with that. I also want to jump around, not with happiness, but I want to jump around and show you this vintage Chimayo that I purchased. It's got a little sterling clasp on it, and it's got a little place for your hand to hold your bag so you can look adorable while you're walking. Now, if I open this Chimayo up, and you can see the tag on the inside. Can you see? Oops. Okay, here we go. Now you can see that this Chimayo tag, I don't know, it's got some writing on it, but it's all hand tacked down all the way around. All the way around. And it's like, it's not even straight, it's a little bit crooked. Kind of hard to show because it's on the inside of this little bag, but that is a 1940s purse. That's a vintage Chimayo. It's very collectible and very sought after. So that's actually up close of a 1940s tag, but I'm going to show you another one. So hang on. Sorry, the camera's crooked. All new at this, y'all. And so my YouTube videos, I want to make them, you know, so you can help yourself find some stuff. My videography is going to be whack. So just so you know, I'm really vintage. So this is what I can do, and this is what I got to help you in your journey of being a collector or a seller. Okay, hang on, let's go out to the garage. Okay. So my first garment that I'm going to show you guys is a vintage, beautiful silk skirt. It's got a little bit of gold flecks through it. It's very sheer. It's very lightweight. And it's a vintage Yves Saint Laurent. Now I'm going to post a picture up so you guys can look at it. This is a really nice hook and eye closure. And a little metal zipper, and I actually can't read. Don't get old. I can't read what the zipper says. But so this is like an 80s or 90s piece. Now, okay, this is definitely a staple 90s piece, scalloped off the shoulder, little mini dress with a scalloped hemline. Okay, I wore this to like my senior prom, but mine was blue. Now this this is something that I've been hanging on to show you guys, okay? So here's a young Edwardian in a vintage size 11. Now this is a company that's been around for a while. How do I know that? Well, because they made this little corset dress in the 70s that I have here in my garage too. So, evolution of the tag, okay? Look at this tag from the 70s. It obviously is trying to look like a vintage a young Edwardian. Now, when you fast forward from the 70s through the 80s into the 90s, you can see what these two tags have evolved to. They're still the same in the fact that they're not sewn down all the way, but wow, the fonts sure have changed. The styles have changed. This is actually a fabric tag, and I believe, if I can double check, the tag on this dress, the fabric component tag, yeah, it's like a paper tag. So these are the two. Evolution of a tag. It's a real thing. So you can see that, you know, in the 70s, they didn't tack the tag down all the way around. And boy, that font sure changed, didn't it? Okay, so that, I hope, helps you a little bit see the difference between the 70s through the 90s. There are similarities. That's from the same brand, but there are differences. Number one, the font is like totally different. Here's a really great brand that you'll see a lot, Campus Casuals. This is a cute little peplum blouse. And this is definitely, I think that this is like late 70s, early 80s. And the way this is sewn is different. It doesn't have raw hems on the side. They've actually taken the time to sew it down. They've even sewn on this little size tag that's the matching type of fabric here as the original tag. And this might, oh yeah, let's see. This actually has an additional garment care tag to it, and I don't see any other tags. So there's another, you know, example, probably from the 80s, maybe the late 70s. So I'm working my way back, okay? So this is definitely like an 80s dress. It could be 90s. This is where, you know, if you want to tell me that I'm wrong about what era it's from, I haven't researched all this stuff. I just gathered it in my house to show on YouTube right now the array of things that you can find. I've been a vintage dealer for a long time. I've got all kinds of this stuff just kind of hanging around. So I feel like this is definitely like a 70s witchy woman style. But this tag is a little bit confusing to me because I feel like I saw this brand a lot in the 90s. So that's where we kind of get to the point where, and it's actually a pretty fabulous witchy dress in rayon with the kind of chain stitch belt. Can you see it? It's so hard to show in here because there's no light right now. But so it's one of those things where it's vintage, but if you do more research, you'll be able to probably narrow down when it's exactly from. I don't know. Because, you know, I'm winging it. Now, this is something that I happen to love. I live right down the street from the Pendleton Wool Mills. And I've taken the tour, and the mills are so fascinating to me. I love textiles. And so we can see here in their tag, okay, see how it's folded? It's like a rectangle, but a triangle, okay? Oops, wrong side. Okay, and then here's the Pendleton tag. Now, there we go. Okay. So this one, it says pure virgin wool, size 42, warranted to be a Pendleton. Now, you take, and this is sewn down on all four sides. Okay, it's tacked down all the way. This is also from the Pendleton mill, okay? But this only has two sides tacked down. And it also has this other tag up here because it's actually from their Western wear line. So this one is older. This one, they say made in USA, Portland, 100% virgin wool. Now, there's a really good resource if you want to get down to brass tacks and you want to actually identify the era that your tag is from. Sometimes you can go directly to the vendor, like Pendleton. They definitely have information about the evolution of their tags that you can research yourself. Levi's also definitely has so much information out there about the evolution of their tags. And I'll tell you a tip about the Levi's tag. You know, they didn't always have that kind of square with the little kind of like bat points. That wasn't always their logo. And they are one of the innovative companies that over the years changed their logo, changed their font, changed everything so much. They actually have a Levi's museum in San Francisco, and if you've got something they want, they will buy it for a lot of money because they didn't keep records of all of their things. Like, they were like, hey, let's just make some stuff and sell it and see what it do. I don't know. I like stuff like that. That's how I live my life sometimes. You know, wing it. Okay, so this is what I want to show you guys, okay? Here is a vintage Levi's jean jacket, okay? So here's the tag on this one. Now, I'm not sure. I feel like this is probably 80s. And then we get into this, oops, smaller tag. Look at how much smaller this tag is. Now, granted, I do believe that this is a woman's jacket, so the tag would be smaller. But look at how different it is from this one. I mean, they're like my eyeliner. They're cousins, not sisters. Okay. So, that's a bad joke. Wait, I totally said it wrong too. God, I always tell the punchline wrong. Dita would say they're sisters, not twins, when it comes to winging out your eyeliner. Okay, so anyway, Dita she knows what's up when it comes to a good cat eye. So this one's different too. This one's a different size. And it's still the leather tag. It still says Levi's, but look at this one has large stamped out and spelled out on it, and there's no paper tag. What's up with that? I have no idea. But I do know it's a vintage Levi's, and it's probably between the 70s and the 90s. I found several of these, which these really threw me off when I first saw them. I thought, wow, this is such an old Levi's tag, because it's just like, it's tacked down all four sides, okay? It's got this really groovy, like jacquard. When I say a jacquard, it's like a way that they sew. So it's like sewn through with dimension, and then there's like fabric on the other side. And it could be like, I don't know, it has a texture to it. It's a weave and a weft, the way they make things. So I got super stoked thinking that this was hella old. This is like 1992. So how would you know that? You wouldn't know that until you went and you did your own research. But if you're out shimmying through the racks and you see a tag like this, hey, that doesn't look like a new Levi's. That looks like a vintage Levi's. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about some Ralph Lauren. I love Ralph Lauren. He is a fashion icon of mine, and the things he made were so rad. Even back in the day to now. I know he doesn't actually head up Ralph Lauren anymore, but so what? The stuff when he was designing is amazing. And I feel like they were also kind of loosey-goosey with the records too, because if you look at vintage Ralph Lauren tags, they're all over the place. So let's start with this super rad 90s. Okay, look at this sweater. Look at this Ralph Lauren 90s rugby cardigan tag. Like, have you ever seen that before? When you look at that, you have to have a clue that that's vintage.
How
like
about
that? I mean, look at that cursive font. It's stitched only on the two sides. It's got this tag underneath it, and it looks very 90s to me. So there's that Ralph Lauren. And then we get, because there's different levels and styles of Ralph Lauren. So like, here's another Ralph Lauren tag. Now, I haven't done all my research, so I'm not sure exactly when this is, but I feel like it's lined with a lumberjack. And I feel like it's probably, oh, it's trying to be like a 1940s jacket. This style was really big in 1940s denim. So I don't know, this might be a 90s piece. It could be a little newer. I'm not quite sure. But wow, look at that tag. I mean, have you ever seen a Ralph Lauren tag that looked like that? Probably not. Okay, so now we're getting... Oh. Oh, I thought I had another Ralph Lauren. I must be tripping. Okay, I do that sometime. So here's a Ralph Lauren, and this one is stitched. All four sides are down. Look at that. It's got the size tag over here on one side, and it's got the fabric content printed, separately underneath it. This is a pretty cool garment. So, man, these vintage mysteries are something else. Like when you're out in the racks and I'm showing you these things that are side by side and you're looking at the tag, I hope this is helping you focus in on, is it vintage? Is it new? I mean, these are like, you know, pretty rocking examples. Straight out of my house. Okay, so now I'm going to show you these 3 items, which I wish I had done a little bit more research on, but we're just kind of winging it tonight. So this is a vintage hand embroidered 100% silk made in China blouse. Okay, it's really, really pretty. And they made a lot of these. This was like import wear. This is something that would get imported, and somebody modified it a little bit. And then also, this is another vintage made in China hand embroidered piece. So these kind of range from, I think they range from like the 40s up through the 80s, maybe the 90s. And it really depends on your tag. Like, so look at this tag. This tag is sewn down all 4 corners. There's a size tag. Oh, and a floppy little, what is that? Dry clean only. So dry clean only, so that means this is actually newer. Now here's another really cool piece that has the tag. It's tacked down all 4 sides. Now it has this, where it was made in China. 100% rayon. The fabric is rayon on this. This is a really good piece, and I feel like this is probably like 60s. So we kind of have the spectrum here. Dry clean only, so this is maybe like, I don't know, this actually looks like a really nice piece, but I think it looks 80s to me. This looks more 60s to me. And this one, I don't know about this one. This one could be older. But they're all embroidered and from China and silk and rayon. So just by learning those small things and looking at the fonts and the way that the tag is sewn down, or does it have that like half rectangle, half triangle tag underneath it? Those are all tell signs of your item. Okay, so we can kind of get into the 70s a little bit. Now the 70s and the 60s and sometimes even the 50s, I feel like it was more 60s and 70s. Now I could be incorrect because I feel like in the 50s either they sewed it down all 4 corners or they only sewed the top. And same with the 40s. It was like a stylistic type of deal. Like, depends on the designer, it depends on what they're sewing, depends on their design in the garment right then. There's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no real right or wrong. This is just a guideline that I'm trying to express to you that there are so many ways. I mean, call the Bee Gees. We stole Andy's shirt here. This is from Sears, and this has a paper garment. It's actually half paper and half, it almost feels like that tape that you like bandage yourself with. A lot of these were supposed to be tearaways, so you would buy the garment and then you could just tear that off because maybe it was itchy or you didn't care because it's obviously polyester. So there's only one way to wash polyester, and that's to throw it in the washing machine. Okay. So, but this shirt is probably, okay, this is probably not 70s, this is probably 60s. But look at, damn it, there they are at it again. But this is actually, see how the style is different and the size is different? This is a much smaller tag. Look at, oh, there are those weird printed jacquard tags I've been talking about. Here's a great example of it. Okay, so this tag is actually, oh, side-by-sider. Oh, how you guys like me now, huh? You learning something? Shoot, I feel like I'm teaching myself something. Like, I forget all these all of this stuff I know. It's all up here. So let's talk about it. Look at this. So this is definitely 70s, and this is definitely 60s. There are variances in it, but it's similar. It was a style. These are men's shirts. Maybe they did that special folding style. Maybe that was a men's shirt style of tag. Vintage mystery solved. Oh, but wait, here's another 60s men's shirt. Okay, the Wrangler coming with the gingham denim. Like, this has a tag sewn on in the front. It's not only tucked in the sewing of the pocket, but it's also stitched across so it'll stay down. And then this one is like, it's only sewn on the left and the right. It's got the fabric content on it. It's hard to read backwards. Let's see. No, it says made in USA, tumble wash, warm, tumble dry, low. It's got the size tag, okay? And it's actually sewn down. You can see, okay, it's sewn down with a zigzag stitch, okay? Which was a tag stylistic style sewing it down. So I say this is actually an older Wrangler shirt, but it's a men's. So I just debunked my own myth that maybe all men's shirts were folded that certain way, like the two shirts I just showed you, because they weren't all sewn that way. Okay, so this is the jacket I was tripping out on, and I thought it was from the 40s. I think it's more 50s. Could be 60s. It's so heavy. This thing weighs like, I don't know, probably weighs about 6 pounds. So but check out this tag. Oops. Okay, Black Bear. I feel like this is 50s. Getting a low battery. I'm talking too much. So look at this tag. It's sewn down all the way. Look at that font on there. This is like a really cool font. So when you're looking at tags and they have like, I mean, and there's actually like their logo is a black bear and he's wearing a jacket. Like, how adorable is that? That's super cute. So see how the font looks so retro? Like, this one's not in cursive, it's in block, but it's also a man's jacket. So this is a really cool jacket. So like I said, so many designers, so many different styles. But when you start looking at them, you can notice there kind of is some sort of something to the madness. Now, these literally are the coolest ski pants I've ever seen in my life. Like, who wants to go snowboarding on the mountain and wear these? Like, I do. And this is kind of a very interesting, unusual style that you didn't see a lot in the 60s. You didn't see these external tags on women's clothing. Nobody was a label whore back then. Nobody was flaunting where their stuff was from. They had an overall aesthetic, and that was the style, not the name of your little bougie brand on your booty. Okay? And this is like, you know, this is like kind of a Old English and a cursive font. I can't read it backwards. It says fabric imported from France. It's got a very cool look to it. These are really well made. And so these are from the 60s. These are very unusual. And damn, look at that tag. I really like these. These are really cool. Okay, so we're getting kind of close to the end here. Here's a vintage dealer's fave. Here's a Lily Ann. Lily Ann was a very famous, and is a very famous design house out of San Francisco. And I actually was lucky enough to go to Lily Ann's secretary's house in Atherton, California, and do a private buyout when I owned my vintage shop in Palo Alto. And actually named after Lily Ann, and her husband was the designer in the fashion house. So they had some variations of tags, and when I find those boxes that have Lily Ann in it, I'll show you guys. But most of the Lily Ann tags, they all really look like that. They kind of varied, I think, through the 70s, and then in the 80s, of course, she got kind of sporty, so they're a little bit different. But this is a really, really, really great 60s piece. And it's got a matching skirt. And it's a good size, too. Now, this is a really cute dress, and it's vintage, and it could be kind of confusing because there's only buttons. Like, okay, there's only buttons, and look at this tag. This tag is sewn down on both sides, but the ends are open. And then look at that font. Tina Page, huh? This is kind of an illusion style dress. It's kind of like a midi length. It's got a special type of eyelet button that helps me identify that this is actually an older piece. This is older than the 60s. This is probably older than the 50s. I'd say that there's a good chance this could be a dress from the 40s. And the fabric's great. And it has a very special way that they would sew the hems. Oh, it's such bad lighting. Okay, so Tina Page. Now I could be wrong. I could be wrong because I'm just winging it. I just pulled the stuff out of the garage and down from the creepy basement to show you guys. So I'm just going off my intuition. It's not always right. I've been fooled before. Don't worry. Now, the vintage items, once we get into the older vintage pieces, which I also want to have another YouTube, I want to have another YouTube vlog about. You know, there's so many things that you can do to identify. So this pretty baby is so pretty. It has a matching bolero and a beautiful black vintage illusion top party dress. And this tag is stitched down in a very peculiar way. Here is the design name, Nicholas Ungar. Ooh-wee, look at what I found. Now look at how it's hand cross stitched down here on the fabric. It's fully stitched down. It's very stylized. This has got a black zipper, black metal zipper up the back. And these are matched covered buttons, okay? So all the signs are leading towards me thinking this is from the 50s. Could be wrong. I feel like I have a fuzzer right there, but probably not, because vintage doesn't have to lie to kick it. There's no reason that a vintage garment has to not tell you the truth about what it is. Okay, so here's another piece. This is an all sequin dress. Okay, it's got a metal zipper up the back. Can't read the name of the zipper. But this is also, this says it's made in the Crown Colony of Hong Kong. It's a vintage size 10. Now it's our same designer we just looked at. And look at how he's doing the tags now. The last one, he had it stitched all the way around. This one, it's only tacked down on two sides and it's not even that beautiful cross stitch. It's like just slapped on in there. So who knows what was happening at the design house right then, but that they were just, maybe they were mass producing things. Maybe they were having these made in the in Hong Kong's British colony and getting it sent over here, putting their name on it and taking it out to sell. That would be my guess. My guess. What the heck do I know? Okay, so now here we go with a beautiful full tulle dress. Okay, this is got a side zipper. Now, not all side zippers are created equally. If you zip up a side zipper and it catches your skin, it's going to leave a mark because metal zippers, they bite. And they bite hard. So, this is a 50s dress. Look at how cute it is. It's got the little satin little belt baby in the back. It's got the ruched bust line. It's got the side zipper in the front. That was for a really, really tight fit. Like, tight and high and beautiful. And this is a Fred. This is a Fred. Okay, and look at how his tag is. It's a jacquard tag, but it's only sewn down on the top. What's Fred gonna do? Is he gonna stitch all four sides down on his dress so then the gal who's wearing it can have some big stupid square in the back? No, Fred wanted her to look beautiful in his dress, and he wanted to put in his label, but he wasn't too worried about it. He was worried about the style of the dress. So, thanks for being smart, Fred. That's pretty cool. Okay, so that's probably one of my oldest things. I have another older dress there that I'm going to show you guys, but you can kind of see the evolution of the tag, and I'm going to put up pictures and photos of all of the garments that I've shown you so you can actually look at the tag a little bit more. And so here's a cool smoking jacket. This is a men's 42 to 44. It's a silk smoking jacket. It's got really cool fabric and really cool details. Look at this lapel. I mean, this is hot stuff right here. The interior, I don't know. I feel like if the interior is just as handsome or as beautiful as the exterior, somebody cared about the quality when they were making this garment. And that's such a good thing because those are the things that are the most beautiful. So this has got a really flashy, awesome tag. And let's see, this has got all four corners of it stitched down. The whole, oh, it's hard to, there we go. The whole tag is stitched down. And it's got gold bling all around it. Like, that's super cool. And this was also made in Hong Kong. And it's specially hand tailored. And then this name in here is actually the guy who they hand tailored it for. Okay, so now Here's some more vintage items. This is a really cool vintage tie with some cactus on it. And this has a tag on it that's stamped. Like, that's innovative. And now, here's this part of the tag. Okay, this has got that weird jacquard stuff. And there it is. Okay. And this is a Robert Mackey. Y'all ever heard of him? Of Scotland. Okay, this is new wool. It's got all of these layers of tags on it. Telling you a lot of stuff about this little garment here. And what about this? All mohair. Look at this. This one's only tacked down on 2 sides. Man, look at that font. Oh, look at that buck on there. I don't know. Some of them are super cool. Some of them are plain. You just never know. But the more you look at all of these vintage tags, the more you see the vintage tags, the more information you'll be able to glean off of it and to figure out what era it's actually from. Okay, here is another, this is my last dress. It's got a nice metal zipper on the side. Ooh, catch you on your little flank right there. Yeah, that'll hurt. This is a nice, beautiful plus-size dress. And it's beautiful fabric. It's satin. The way that they sew down these garments is just so different than what we're used to. But look at this tag. Like, this could kind of fool you, but this could also maybe not fool you. Look at, it's only tacked down along the top on this interior layer. So there's no actual stitch on this pretty dresses outside. So that kind of gives you a little bit of insight into this dress. So this is young Viewpoint out of New York. And it's really well made. It's got some really great details up here. And it's definitely vintage. So that's it. Those are all of my examples spanning through the decades. I kind of didn't bother with the 90s because I feel like you guys can find that. All the way down through the 1940s, explaining to you and showing you visual examples of garments and their tags made during those eras. Just to get you thinking, when you're outsourcing, whether it's for your collection, whether it's for resale, whether it's just because you're at the thrift right then at that time, if you find some tags that look like these, guess what? Found a piece of vintage. So thanks so much you guys for watching. Tune into my channel. Give me a like and a subscribe. Those are my dogs. Give me a like and a subscribe and follow me on this journey because I want to teach you guys how to find more vintage, identify it, and flip it, sell it, or collect it. Okay, talk to you soon.